When a billionaire challenges power, Elon Musk has never been one to follow conventional rules. He lived by his own laws, built his own companies, and shaped his vision of the future. Rockets, cars, artificial intelligence, all of these were in his hands. But one day, he made a statement that shook the entire world. Zelensky must go. He is leading the country to ruin. This tweet was short, but like an explosion, it spread across all news channels, social media, and corridors of power. The world froze. What was this? A billionaire's temporary madness? Or did he actually know something that others didn't? In Washington, politicians exchanged nervous glances. In Kiev, there was panic. And in the Kremlin, perhaps, someone allowed themselves a faint smile. That day marked the beginning of the end for one president and a new era for global politics. Musk versus Zelensky, how did it all begin? It all started long before that tweet. To understand why Musk challenged the president of Ukraine, we need to go back a few years. When the conflict between Russia and Ukraine began in 2022, the billionaire unexpectedly got involved. He provided Ukraine with Starlink satellite communications, helped the army and volunteers, and sent thousands of terminals to the battlefield. But later, disagreements began. In 2023, Musk proposed a peace plan, recognise Crimea as Russian, hold new referendums in disputed territories, establish Ukraine's neutral status. This idea enraged Kiev. Zelensky responded with a sarcastic post. Which Musk do you prefer? The one who supports Ukraine or the one who supports Russia? This was their first open conflict, but Musk did not forget. Time passed and the situation worsened. Ukraine's economy was declining, the West was growing tired of the war. Billions of dollars were flowing into military aid, yet there was no victory in sight, and Musk understood the world was exhausted. So he decided to say what others were afraid to. The angry tweet that changed history, March 5th, 2025. Late evening, Musk was sitting in his office in Texas. In front of him, a massive screen with several news websites open. He sipped black coffee, staring thoughtfully at the monitor. More war news, more pleas for aid from Ukraine, more billions heading to a place where victory was nowhere in sight. Musk sighed. He knew his words would have consequences, but he could no longer stay silent. He opened Twitter and typed, "Zelensky must go. He is leading the country to ruin." One click, and the world exploded. The shockwave, a world in turmoil. Within a minute, the tweet was being massively reposted. Within 10 minutes, the biggest media outlets were reporting on it. Within an hour, it was the world's top news story. Washington froze. Brussels was nervous. Kiev was scrambling to react. Who gave Musk the right to say this? Fumed Ukrainian officials. But he's right, social media commenters wrote. But the most unexpected reaction came from US Senator Lindsey Graham. We need to seriously discuss Ukraine's future. Perhaps it's time for new decisions. This was the first hint that the West was truly reconsidering its support for Zelensky. And then, just a few hours later, US Vice President J.D. Vance spoke up. We must think about peace. War cannot last forever. That was the second blow to Zelensky. Kiev in panic, Zelensky's response. In Zelensky's office, there was tense silence. Advisors stood in a semicircle, news feeds flashing on screens. Zelensky stared at the tweet, his eyes filled with anger and anxiety. Has Musk gone insane? Mr. President, the problem isn't Musk, one advisor cautiously began. The problem is that people agree with him. Zelensky stood up from his desk and walked to the window. He knew that America was Ukraine's main ally. If they were starting to doubt his leadership, something was seriously wrong. We must respond, he finally said, strongly. And within an hour, Zelensky's official statement appeared. We do not discuss politics with businessmen. Musk should stick to his rockets. But it was too late. The world was already questioning Ukraine's future. Storm behind the scenes. What's happening in Washington? Washington, the White House. The US president sat in his office, fingers interlocked, staring at his laptop screen. In front of him, an article with the headline, Elon Musk calls for Zelensky to step down. Will the West support this? The room was tense. His closest advisors, intelligence chiefs and Pentagon representatives were seated nearby. They all understood. Musk's tweet wasn't just words, it was a signal. "We need to respond," the National Security Advisor finally said. "If we stay silent, it means we agree." The president sighed and leaned back in his chair. What do the senators say? The Secretary of State quickly scrolled through his tablet. Some are already talking about a shift in policy. Lindsey Graham hints that Zelensky isn't eternal. J.D. Vance says we need peace. What about Ukraine's funding? It's in question, sir. More and more congressmen don't want to approve new aid packages. Musk just voiced what many are already thinking. The president was deep in thought. The war had lasted too long. America was tired. More and more people were asking, why are we still doing this? Call Zelensky. The phone call that changed everything. Kiev. The president's office. The phone rang late at night. Zelensky had been expecting this. He picked up, and on the other end, the voice of the US president spoke. "Volodymyr, we have a problem." Zelensky remained silent. He knew the problems hadn't started today. "Did you see Musk's tweet?" "I did. Do you understand that this isn't just a billionaire's stunt? I understand that I need to hold my ground." A few seconds of silence. "We can't support Ukraine forever, Volodymyr. You need to understand that." Zelensky's eyes narrowed. "Are you saying I should step down?" The US president sighed. "I'm saying the world is changing. You need to be more flexible." The call ended. Zelensky slowly placed the phone back on the table. He realized America was starting to turn away. Washington storm, the mask. Comes off. The next day, a closed-door meeting took place in the US. White House officials, senators, and top military leaders were present. Only one question was on the agenda: what to do about Ukraine. Opinions were divided. "We can't just abandon them," one political hawk protested. "But we also can't keep pouring money into this forever," another countered. Then in the middle of the discussion, someone said the key words: "We need a new leader in Kiev." Silence. Everyone knew exactly who they were talking about. Zelensky was losing support. Elon Musk, a harbinger of change? And what about Musk? He continued living his life. But his words had awakened giants. He had shown the world that the West was tired of war. A few days later, he gave an interview where he said, "I'm not a politician, but I can see the world heading toward a dead end. Maybe it's time to explore other options." This was Zelensky's final warning. Shortly after, unrest began in Kiev. The future of Ukraine. What's next? Now, the key questions remain. Will the West continue funding Ukraine? Can Zelensky hold on to power? Will a new leader be found? Behind the scenes, political forces are already searching for a replacement. And Musk? He simply showed the world that change is coming. But what awaits Ukraine? That question remains open.